And he invented like this little vacuum cleaner thing, you know, like when you're in the dentist, a little thing went, you know, to get rid of that.
We originally thought we'd have to use her a lot because Linda had no training as an actress. But she learned very fast. So Linda was used in practically everything except the extreme violence scenes.
I did the vomiting scene and what they call the abuse of the cross sequence.
Jesus, fuck you! Jesus, fuck you!
Which was done to the thighs, if anybody really wants to know.
Lift me! Lift me!
Bloody sponges on the thighs. And of course, you know, the thing that I always have to say is nobody knew it was going to be The Exorcist. We were just making a horror film.
We tried to duplicate reality. And it's something Stan Winston said to me as a kid, because I had sculpted this big monster head. He's like, that's all fine and dandy. Sculpt the nose. Why don't you sculpt the nose and mold it and run it and apply it and let's see if it looks real. Because if you can do that, you can do anything. And I was like, but that sounds easy. It's just a nose. He went, no, it's not just a nose. It's dead center in your face. So you've got to learn how to crawl before you can walk.
There's nothing harder in this life than to convince you that somebody's older than they are on film. Old age makeup is the most diabolically difficult thing to really pull off. It's only ever been done twice, in my estimation, in a way that I completely believed. Both times were Dick Smith.
Well, you know, when I saw The Exorcist, which I wasn't allowed to see, but it was one of the films my dad brought home, and I snuck a peek through the crack in the door and watched it. And I kept going, I don't know why people are freaking out about it, because to me, I was looking at it as a technical standpoint. Like, those makeups are amazing. Never did I ever think that Max von Sydow was wearing a makeup, you know, as he's playing Father Marin.
Captain please mutilate in your image.
I seem to recall that he had trouble getting some work after that because everybody thought he was 75 years old. And indeed, he was not.
Max was a young man. Max was 40-something when he did The Exorcist. He was a young man.
Working with Max, who was in his early 40s somewhere, was really an easy job because he had a long, kind of serious-looking face. His skin wrinkled easily enough. I could add on small appliance to give him a wattle on his neck and use just what we call old-age stipple, which is just a latex formulation that you stipple on the skin and stretch it. And then when you let it go, it makes the skin more leathery, and therefore it wrinkles naturally.
The approach wasn't that complex in theory. Actually executing it took genius.
My own face would be, I could look like a mummy in no time. I put some on my face.
You know, I don't even think Max von Sydow even looks that old today. It is probably the best old age makeup ever done. It's flawless.
And the other one was F. Murray Abraham in Amadeus, which is one of the great makeups of all time. And you just completely believe it.
I mean, Dick really became the master of old age makeup. You know, you follow the Father Marin makeup, which to me is perfect, all the way up to Amadeus and so forth, and just really beautiful, subtle stuff.
His performance was truly wonderful. And that's all part of it. Your makeup is worthless if the actor doesn't use it.
Look, he's deserved an Academy Award his whole life. He finally gave it to him for Amadeus.
That is a victory for me that I treasure still.
If they do the Hall of Fame of makeup effects artist, he'll be right at the top of the list. Right next to Jack Pierce would be Dick Smith.
I started working in the film business as a mailboy at 20th Century Fox Studios in 1967. And the head of the makeup department at Fox was John Chambers.
Johnny once applied to me before he got into the field for a job at NBC. And at that point, I had nothing that I could offer him. Johnny headed west and became very successful.
He had been a guy in the military. One of his jobs was picking up pieces of people after accidents and acts of war. And he became fascinated by disfigurement and how you deal with it. And he was my first exposure to a makeup artist. I used to go into the makeup department all the time because I thought it was so cool. They had, you know, shelves lined with sculptures and monsters, and they were making all the foam appliances for the Planet of the Apes.
Planet of the Apes, beyond your wildest dreams.
I'm old enough to remember when Planet of the Apes came out and what an impact that had on my little 9-year-old brain.
You did it. You cut up his brain, you bloody baboon.
You know, of course, every kid has to do a Planet of the Apes makeup, so I did a whole bunch of those as well. And, you know, got my face, I cast my own face, which was very difficult, and ended up sculpting, you know, just looking at how they broke it down, you know, those photos. So it was like the brow with the muzzle, and then a lower chin, and then hair pieces, and a hand laid, all this hair.
I remember the Planet of the Apes being really exciting as a kid because of mainly the idea and seeing the makeup and how strange and adventurous those were. I remember my dad trying to bond my brother and I by saying, "Oh, let's go. We're going to a college football game. And we're sitting up in the nosebleeds, and it was cold, and I was all mad because we were missing Planet of the Apes on TV." I remember that.
Now the tribunal has placed you in my custody for final disposition. You realize what that means?
He won an Oscar. He won the second honorary Oscar ever given to a makeup person before it was a category for Planet of the Apes.
Rick Baker had a great love for gorillas and was a gorilla-obsessed human being. Started with John Landis' Schlock, and he did King Kong. He always does gorillas.
You're getting soft, Limbo. You normally hack off a limb.
Well, I was really excited when Rick got hired to do Planet of the Apes. I figured that's going to be great. I mean, I knew Rick's stuff was going to be great.
Because of Rick's interest and obsession with apes and his inspiration by Planet of the Apes and all this stuff, I think that he always had a really unique vision in terms of how to translate those makeups, saying, how can we improve upon this? How can we make this different? How can we make it more interesting? Well, listen, let's see what we can do about adding lip movement.
I must be out of my mind. Out of my mind. I'll have to make it up on volume.
What I loved about Rick's makeups were, the makeup he did on Paul Giamatti and the makeup on Tim Roth. And they're all so dramatically different.
All right. Get them out and get them clean. Chop, chop.
It's always tough. I mean, I think Rick took a huge chance doing that film because it has so much love, within the world and the audience and all of us.
It was astounding work. Definitely, a tribute to Rick's vision and his sort of updating, the classic.
I was working on a picture called Jaws 3 People Zero at Universal, which looked like it was never going to get made. And my friend Mike Fennell was working on a project called The Howling, where the original director was apparently being let go. When I came over to do that picture, the idea was that there was going to be a werewolf transformation, and it was all going to be done in one take, which was unusual for the time. So we went to Rick Baker, who was a friend of ours and had always wanted to do a werewolf picture, but he had been working with John Landis on a picture called American Werewolf, and they had never really got the financing and never got off the ground, and I think Rick was a little frustrated.
I gave Rick a screenplay I had written in 1969 called An American Werewolf in London. And I said, Rick, figure this out, because I want to show, and I told him everything. So he had a long time to think about it, because no one would ever make that film.
And so when we asked him to do our picture, he said, sure. And he had all these ideas, which I guess he had been planning to use on the other picture. And he worked for us for about, a week, maybe. He did a fabulous test. And John's project suddenly came to life.
I call him up and I go, hey, Rick, I got the money. We're making Werewolf. And he went, what's the matter? He says, well, remember that Change-O head I showed you and everything? Yeah. Well, I'm doing a werewolf picture for Joe Dante. I said, you fuck, what? What?
So Rick had to semi-reluctantly leave our movie and left us in the hands of Rob Bottin, who was his associate, is much younger, had worked with me on Piranha at the age of 18, so I already knew him.
So Rob Bottin took over the picture and did the werewolves, and Rick came and did An American Werewolf in London.
Rick Baker's American Werewolf in London. When you watch that, it's happening right in front of you. My stuff always was happening right in front of you. There was something to that.
Rob came up with his own concept of how he wanted to do these transformations.
I had done a movie called Airplane, where I made a mechanical nose prosthetic for Leslie Nielsen. It was like a Pinocchio nose, and it grew on camera. So I thought, well, wait a minute, what if I use the same technology that I used for that nose, and I used it to actually make the mechanical mask, make its nose grow, and make the lower jaw grow, make the ears grow, and make the teeth grow. With the inspiration that Joe Dante wanted to see transformation done in one shot, I then started thinking, like, well, wouldn't it be kind of interesting to actually make a replica of the actor? And inside would be like an underskull. And I thought, well, what if I actually took the skull and cut it up and actually got the bones to shift and whatnot?
It was a learn-by-doing situation. Rob would do stuff, we would shoot it, we would look at it, we would cut it, we would discover that what looked like a mistake could work for us if we put a sound effect on it.
Rob Bottin was he was really unbelievable on The Howling.
Dee Wallace, who had to do most of the reacting to the werewolf and had to look at nothing, was a really good actress who could really get into the moment. And you find that no matter how good your effects are, if your cutaway to the actor's response isn't convincing, it negates the quality of the effect.
It was interesting hearing Joe going, okay, he's getting taller. Whoops, there comes his ears.
They know that there's a level of risibility to the fact that you're doing it, so they have to take that into account and not break up.
Well, I love Rob Bottin. Rob Bottin, God, you know what it's like? It's like when a movie would come out by Rob Bottin or Rick Baker or Dick Smith. This is the latest exhibit from your favorite artist. That's how I would treat it. You're not going to just see this movie. You're going to see the latest artwork from one of these people. I mean, look at Total Recall, the woman's head that just split, boom, 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 and there's Arnold.
When I was meeting with Paul and I was pitching him my different ideas for the movie, this is the transition scene where Arnold, in essence, is going to Mars and his adventure is beginning.
That wasn't in the script. You know, that wasn't written somewhere. He just contributed that.
Get ready for a surprise!
That's the stuff that you respect.
I talked with a bunch of guys on the thing about how to do it. There's a lot of influence at the time from Alien, face hugging and such. Rob Bottin came in and said, kind of gave me the secret to the movie, creatively, dramatically, and the effects-wise. He said, look, this is a chance of a lifetime because the thing can look like anything. It doesn't have to look like one thing. It changes constantly, so we can just go wild with it.
So I said to John, wouldn't it be neat if the guy's rib cage, Norris, his rib cage just rips open and his ribs become like a big set of teeth. And then Doc, who isn't expecting this, of course, falls into the chest cavity. And the teeth close and bite Doc's arms off.
One of my favorite images of all time is, Norris's head hitting the floor and sprouting the legs. Are you kidding me?
I remember when I first saw The Thing, I went into a double feature of The Thing and Fast Times at Ridgemont High, and I thought if Fast Times was first and then it was going to go into Thing, and they had the times all screwed up, so when you got there, this guy's head was coming off the table, stretching, and then crawling across the floor. Like, that ain't Fast Time.
You felt like you were in the hands of lunatics who would stop at nothing to get the visceral effect.
Now, that is the masterpiece of splatter to me, The Thing. Nothing I've ever done I could say this is the masterpiece of splatter. Although they call me the king of splatter, Rob Bottin's work in The Thing that's the masterpiece.
And what really is mind-blowing is those effects still hold up.